One of the most important modern video games is about to be 6 years old, and not nearly enough of us are talking about it. Since its release, Warframe has garnered almost 50 million players. It has frequented Steam's most played games list. It has launched on every current console, building an avid community across live streams and social media alike. It's even hosted a yearly convention for dedicated players. By all accounts, Warframe should be in the spotlight, but it's not. In 2013, Warframe was a passion project. Developer Digital Extremes had just finished years of contract work and needed to release an alpha of its next title to stay afloat. The result was a promising, albeit skeletal, build of the studio's sci-fi loot shooter. Warframe was also free to play at a time when that label carried a stigma. Although players and critics took note as it released on PC, PS4, and Xbox One, the majority, including me, quickly moved on. Destiny preview coverage was reaching a fever pitch, and comparisons to Bungie's loot shooter were unfavorable for the smaller Digital Extremes. Lastly, it didn't help that Warframe was, and still is, very complex. It's complex in a good way, and I'll get to that, but in its early hours, Warframe can be overwhelming. Many people reach this screen and decide they're not smart or determined enough to decipher it. Others are uncomfortable with the general lack of handholding, feeling analysis paralysis in the face of so many ways to play. For any of the preceding reasons, Warframe never really built up the critical attention that AAA games often do. Instead, it quietly improved, morphing with each new update, partnering with a community that helped it prosper. It added dozens of characters, introduced 2 new open worlds, released major story-based quests. As the devs often say, Warframe carved out its own little pocket in the loot shooter space. The result is one of the more intriguing phenomenons in modern video games. A massive, successful, thriving title that sites like GameSpot rarely talk about. With so many developers entering the games-as-service space and even more going free-to-play, Warframe is now more relevant than ever. More developers should learn from it, and if you ask me, we should all be playing it. Full disclosure, I was super late to the Warframe party. For years I viewed it from a distance, seeing it as just another loot grind too complex to grasp when so many other games were upfront with their ideas. But 3 months ago, over the holidays, I dove in. I've since logged 170 hours. I've collected new characters, built better weapons, upgraded hundreds of mods. I've traveled one of the more rewarding learning curves I can recall, and I still have a ton to learn. If you've tried describing Warframe to someone, you might have found it difficult. Yes, it's a sci-fi action PvE game where you play as space ninjas in a variety of mission types. But as a loot-based game, it breaks the mold. Titles such as Anthem, Destiny, Diablo, and Borderlands rely on frequent trickles of weapon drops from dead enemies. You fight better opponents to gain better loot, allowing you to fight even better opponents for even better loot. Warframe is a grind as well, but in many ways it puts you in control of the grind. You don't gather new equipment in the field, instead you gather the materials to build the weapon, gear, or character you want. Furthermore, you are in charge of the mods or elemental effects that would already be fixed to items in other games. In Warframe, you have much more say over how your weapons function than you would in Diablo, for example, where you have to respec items with a dice roll to get a build that you like. It's a shame that the mod system seems so complicated at first blush because it's actually one of the more intriguing parts of Warframe. It lets you turn your Boltor assault rifle into a critical hit factory on one mission, then swap in new mods for tons of radiation damage on the next. There are countless combinations of enemies, mission types, and tile sets, and learning to mod your equipment for each prevents Warframe from ever getting stale. I'm reminded of all things of The Matrix. The more I learn Warframe's mod system, and all of its systems really, the more powerful I feel.
What is he doing?
He's beginning to believe.
Gaining more power in loot-based games is nothing new, but Warframe doesn't automatically increase numbers for you. It teaches you how to do it yourself. Of course, like Neo, you can also dodge bullets, and of course, like Neo, eventually, you won't have to. What I'm saying is that despite the presence of RNG, item farming, and some archaic free-to-play tedium, Warframe's grind is nuanced. Warframe's grind is fun to learn. By handing the reins of the power fantasy over to you, Digital Extremes acknowledges that you are an intelligent player capable of dictating your own definition of improvement. This is Mark Rosewater. He's head designer of Magic: The Gathering and has been since 2003. Even if you're not into Magic, or for that matter, collectible card games, Mark is one of the more insightful people when it comes to game design in general. A few years ago, he coined the term lenticular design. It's taken from lenticular images, those pictures that change depending on the angle you see them from. Mark used this to describe systems that are simultaneously simple to the beginner, but more advanced to the experienced player. I know that sounds like a paradox, but bear with me because it's actually at the heart of many great modern games. Take Overwatch, for example. Many of its characters are lenticular heroes. My favorite example is Tracer. To the beginning player, she has teleportation powers that make her very hard to hit. To the veteran, she's a great skirmisher, someone who can pester enemy groups with little intention of actually killing them. She can buy time for the rest of her team. Tracer is lenticular because, in this case, neither the rookie nor the veteran are wrong. Both philosophies are viable in their own way. It's only through time and experience that you'll see her from a different, albeit more useful, angle. Warframe's characters, or frames, are a prime example of this philosophy. Each of them has an obvious theme, from Ember's fire attacks to Mag's use of magnetic abilities. Then there's Rhino, a frame that relies on tanking and brute force. Those are all the surface-level attributes, and likely the factors that will help new players decide which frames to use. These are also the characteristics that make experimenting with each of the current 39 characters so fun. Veteran players, however, will see the nuance in their ninjas. Take Mag's Polarize ability. In earlier missions, it's an effective way to do decent crowd damage. It's obvious, it's satisfying, and new players will just get it. If you use the right mods though, Polarize becomes an extremely useful power in high-level missions. It damages shielded enemies and reduces the protection of armored marines. It also replenishes the shields of any allies it touches. Here's another example. This is Frost, a Warframe based around ice powers. The last ability he learns is called Avalanche, which first freezes, then shatters enemies in close proximity. To the beginner, this is his most attractive ability, and they wouldn't be wrong to use it against enemy groups. Seasoned Warframe players, however, will know that in the late game, Frost is best used as a defensive character, specifically with his Snow Globe ability. It creates a protective dome around the frame and his allies, and becomes a major asset in defense missions and difficult boss fights. I could go on for hours about more of this multifaceted character design, but I really don't want to spoil the discoveries you'll have on your own. The last thing I'll say is that the excitement of this lenticular depth doesn't wear off in the later hours. In fact, it's somehow the opposite. Digital Extremes has this talent for making Warframe more intriguing the more you play. You'll get to the point where you have a 10-character rotation and a variety of loadouts for each mission type. It feels like the game is rewiring your brain with each new scenario it throws at you. This dependence on colorful heroes with hidden depth is becoming more prevalent by the year. Successful games such as Rainbow Six Siege, Apex Legends, and Overwatch are all proof of that. And if developers haven't already looked to Warframe for inspiration, they should. It's a veritable iceberg of lenticular design and a shining example of deceptive simplicity. This isn't to say Warframe is not flawed though. In fact, I wish the devs would extend this two-sided design to other areas as well. As I said before, the complexity and learning are a huge part of the game's charms. But sometimes that complexity is less of a funnel and more of a wall. About 5% of my time with Warframe hasn't actually involved playing the game. It's consisted of skimming through wikis and forums. Some objectives are too vague, some crafting materials too hidden for me to call it clever. Sometimes it feels as if Warframe uses complexity just because it can. Now, I'm not saying Digital Extremes should explain each and every little thing to the player, but I do think the player base would benefit if the studio found ways to ease newcomers into a few more of its intricacies. A more hands-on modding tutorial, for example, or a simple prompt saying, focus on clearing the star chart, most of the game will unfold from there. These would do wonders for rookie players, and more players are only going to benefit everyone involved. It's telling that it's taken me this long to address the free-to-play elephant in the room. I rarely felt the need to spend real money, and when I did, I didn't regret it. Forgive my hyperbole here, but more than any game I've played, Warframe feels like a partnership between the developers and me. I was happy to give them money. I was happy to support the studio in this ongoing endeavor. There's an example highlighted in NoClip's documentary that perfectly sums up Digital Extremes' views on monetization. When the studio released Kubros, the game's canine combat companions, it allowed you to pay real money for randomized fur patterns and appearances. Upon seeing that one player had pulled that metaphorical lever over 200 times, the team realized it had created a slot machine. They promptly pulled the feature to prevent further excessive gambling. So, in essence, Digital Extremes pulled a microtransaction feature because one player had used it too many times. Digital Extremes has done so many things it did not need to do. It added 2 open worlds to a game that previously relied on rapid-fire missions. It allowed talented community artists to sell their own armor sets. During the week I began to write this script, the team released Nightwave, a series of daily and weekly challenges framed as an in-game radio show. There's even a twist in the mid-game hours that single-handedly changed my perception of what exactly Warframe is. But the community is surprisingly great about not spoiling this, so I'll honor that here. And that's as good an example as any to characterize Warframe's community. Like any group dedicated to something they love, it has its occasional sore spots. The get-good mentality in particular rears its ugly head in the late-game hours. But take one trip to the Warframe forums, ask for help through the in-game chat, jump into Digital Extremes' DevStream, a bi-weekly show that's coming up on its 126th episode. At each and every turn, Warframe emphasizes cooperation between players, developers, Tenogen artists, and YouTube creators alike. The theme song for the recent Fortuna update sums this up perfectly. We all lift together.
And we all lift, and we're all adrift together.
Warframe is many things. It's a case study for community involvement. It's a paragon for free-to-play standards. It's a masterclass in multifaceted design, and now, at the end of my video, there are countless things I wish I could have touched on. But I'll end by saying this. There is no wrong time to start playing Warframe. In fact, I would say now is the best time. With more studios joining the free-to-play scene and even more seeking balance in their progression systems, Warframe is the game we should be looking to. It began as a product of what games were, but has since become an example of what games can be. And its age doesn't make it antiquated or obsolete. Warframe's age makes it a monument. And it's time we all started paying attention.